The rain was coming down in sheets that night, soaking through my maternity dress as I stood on the doorstep of what used to be my home. 7 months pregnant, with nothing but a small suitcase and my laptop bag, I watched my husband Nathan close the door in my face without a word. Behind him, I could hear his mother Patricia's shrill voice. Finally, the gold digger is gone. If only they knew what they had just done. My name is Stella, and I'm 29 years old. 3 years ago, I was a promising software engineer working at a small startup when I met Nathan at a tech conference. He was charming, ambitious, and came from a wealthy family that owned Morrison Tech, a successful software development company worth about $50 million. His parents, Patricia and Richard Morrison, had built the company from scratch 20 years ago. Our relationship moved quickly. Nathan was everything I thought I wanted: successful, handsome, and seemingly devoted. When he proposed after just 8 months of dating, I said yes without hesitation. That was my first mistake. The red flags started appearing during our engagement. Patricia would make subtle comments about my modest background and how lucky I was to be marrying into their family. Richard would joke about making me sign a prenup to protect their assets, though Nathan always laughed it off and said it wasn't necessary. "Don't worry about them," Nathan would say whenever I expressed concern. "They're just protective. Once we're married, they'll see you're not after our money." I should have listened to my instincts. After our wedding, I left my job to work for Morrison Tech. It made sense at the time. They needed someone with my specific expertise in AI and machine learning, and Patricia insisted it would be keeping the business in the family. I threw myself into the work, often staying late to develop new software solutions that could take the company to the next level. That's when I created Arya, a revolutionary AI-powered project management system that could predict bottlenecks, optimize workflows, and increase productivity by up to 300%. It was my baby, built from countless hours of coding, testing, and refinement. The Morrisons were impressed, but seemed to view it as just another company asset. "Make sure you file all the paperwork properly," Richard had said offhandedly one day. "Patent applications, copyright registrations, the works. Can't be too careful in this business." So I did, meticulously. What they didn't pay attention to was whose name I put on those documents. You see, I'd learned something interesting during my time at Morrison Tech. While the company was successful, it had been coasting on outdated technology for years. Their main products were variations of software they'd developed a decade ago. Arya wasn't just an improvement. It was the innovation that could transform them from a regional player to a national powerhouse. The real problems began when I got pregnant. Nathan seemed happy at first, but his parents' reaction was decidedly cold. "How convenient," Patricia had muttered when we announced the news at Sunday dinner. "Barely a year into the marriage and already securing your position." I tried to brush off their hostility, focusing on my work and preparing for the baby. But as my pregnancy progressed, the comments became more vicious. Patricia would make remarks about my weight gain, question my doctor's appointments, and constantly imply I was trying to trap Nathan with a baby. Everything came to a head last week. I had just returned from a prenatal checkup when I found Patricia in my home office, going through my personal laptop. "What are you doing?" I asked, shocked. She didn't even look embarrassed. "Just checking something." Richard noticed some irregularities in the patent filings. "Seems like you've been putting your name on company property." "Arya is my creation," I said firmly. "I developed it. With company resources, on company time," she snapped. "Everything you create belongs to Morrison Tech. But don't worry, we'll fix your little error." That evening, Nathan came home with divorce papers. "This isn't working out," he said, not meeting my eyes. "Mom's right. You've been trying to steal from the company. The stress isn't good for the baby. It's better if you leave." "Are you serious?" I stared at him in disbelief. "I'm 7 months pregnant with your child. We'll work out custody later," he said coldly. "But you need to go. Tonight." Patricia appeared in the doorway, a smug smile on her face. "We've already packed your things. Just the personal items, of course. Everything else stays here." "You can't do this," I protested. "This is my home too." "Not anymore," Richard said, joining his wife. "The house is in Nathan's name. And after we report your attempted theft of company property, you'll be lucky if we don't press charges." "Attempted theft?" I laughed bitterly. "Of my own creation?" "You mean Morrison Tech's creation," Patricia corrected. "Now get out before we call the police." I looked at Nathan, searching for any sign of the man I'd married. But he just stood there, silent, while his parents threw me out into the rain. As I struggled with my suitcase, Patricia called out one final insult. Maybe now you'll learn that gold diggers don't win against real families. Nobody tries to trap my son and steal from us. I found myself at a cheap motel that night, soaking wet and fighting back tears. But as I sat on the lumpy bed, rubbing my swollen belly, something shifted inside me. The tears stopped. The hurt transformed into cold, calculated determination. They wanted to play dirty? Fine. But they'd forgotten one crucial detail. The next morning, I called my former colleague, Marcus, who now worked at a major tech investment firm. Stella, I heard you were working for Morrison Tech. How's that going? Actually, Marcus, I have a business proposition for you. Remember how you said to call if I ever had something revolutionary? Well, I do. It's called Arya. I'm listening, he said, interest piqued. It's an AI system that could transform project management across every industry. And before you ask, yes, I own all the patents and copyrights. I have the documentation right here. By that afternoon, I was sitting in a conference room with 3 major investors, demonstrating Arya's capabilities. Their eyes lit up as they saw what it could do. This is incredible, one of them said. Morrison Tech must be planning a major expansion with this. Actually, I smiled, Morrison Tech has no claim to Arya. I own it outright, and I'm looking for partners who can help me launch it properly. The bidding war started immediately. By the end of the week, I had offers ranging from $10 million to $15 million for exclusive licensing rights, with several firms offering to set me up as CTO of a new subsidiary. But I wasn't done yet. You see, while working at Morrison Tech, I discovered something else. Their existing software, the backbone of their business, relied heavily on certain algorithms and protocols I'd developed and improved. Technically, they had licenses to use the original versions. But my improvements? Those were mine. I hired the best intellectual property lawyer in the state. Let me get this straight, she said, reviewing my documentation. You personally own the patents for Arya, and you also own the improvements to their core software? Every line of code I wrote is documented and registered, I confirmed. I was very thorough. She smiled like a shark. They kicked out a pregnant woman who holds the keys to their kingdom. This is going to be interesting. 2 weeks after being thrown out, I was ready. I'd accepted a $12 million deal with Quantum Dynamics, a Morrison Tech competitor for Arya. They'd also offered me an executive position with full maternity leave and childcare support, everything the Morrisons had never provided. But first, I had some papers to serve. I waited until Morrison Tech's monthly board meeting, where all their major investors would be present. Wearing my best maternity dress and accompanied by my lawyer and a process server, I walked into their headquarters like I owned the place. The receptionist, who knew me well, looked shocked. Stella? But I thought. I'm here for the board meeting, I said pleasantly. Official business. We took the elevator to the top floor. Through the glass conference room walls, I could see the entire Morrison family plus about a dozen board members. Perfect. I knocked and entered without waiting for permission. Stella. Nathan stood up, shocked. What are you doing here? Hello, everyone, I said calmly. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have some urgent business matters to discuss. Patricia's face turned red. Security. Get this woman out of here. I wouldn't do that, my lawyer interjected. Ms. Chen is here on legitimate legal business. Legal business? Richard scoffed. She's a disgruntled ex-employee trying to cause trouble. Actually, I said, pulling out the documents, I'm here to inform you that Morrison Tech is in violation of multiple patent and copyright infringements. As of this morning, you're using software improvements that belong to me without proper licensing. That's ridiculous, Patricia shrieked. Everything you created belongs to the company. No, I said firmly. Everything I created using my own knowledge, skills, and innovations belongs to me. I have all the documentation to prove it. More importantly, Arya, the system you've been planning to build your expansion on, is my sole property. The board members started murmuring among themselves. Furthermore, my lawyer added, we're prepared to seek an immediate injunction preventing Morrison Tech from using any of Ms. Chen's proprietary improvements. This would effectively require you to revert to your software versions from 3 years ago. Richard's face went pale. I knew why. Without my improvements, their systems would be obsolete. They'd lose most of their current clients within months. This is extortion. Nathan finally spoke up. No, I said, looking him directly in the eye. This is business. The same kind of business your family taught me when they threw out a pregnant woman in the rain. One of the board members, an older woman I'd met briefly before, spoke up. Ms. Chun, what exactly are you proposing? I smiled. I'm not unreasonable. Morrison Tech can license my improvements for a fair market rate. Let's say $3 million annually. As for Arya, that ship has sailed. I've already partnered with Quantum Dynamics. Quantum Dynamics? Richard's voice was strangled. Our biggest competitor? Former competitor, I corrected. With Arya, they'll be in a different league entirely. The room erupted in chaos. Board members demanded explanations from the Morrisons. Patricia was screaming about lawsuits. Nathan just stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. I placed the legal documents on the table. You have 48 hours to respond. My lawyer will be in touch. As I turned to leave, Patricia couldn't resist one last attack. You planned this all along, didn't you? You are a gold digger. I paused at the door, hand on my belly. No, Patricia. I was a woman who loved your son and worked hard to contribute to your family's success. You turned me into something else when you threw me out. Consider this my graduation from the Morrison Tech School of Business. The aftermath was swift and brutal. The board forced Richard to step down as CEO, bringing in outside management to handle the crisis. They agreed to my licensing terms. They had no choice. Without my improvements, they'd lose everything. Nathan tried to contact me several times, leaving voicemails about reconciliation and working things out for the baby. I didn't respond. My lawyer handled all communication regarding custody arrangements. Patricia and Richard's reputation in the business community was destroyed. News of how they'd treated a pregnant employee, one who held crucial patents, spread quickly. Several major clients pulled their contracts, not wanting to be associated with such practices. As for Morrison Tech itself, it survived barely. They're now a struggling mid-tier company, hemorrhaging money in licensing fees and watching their former competitor dominate the market with Arya. 3 months later, I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Luna. Quantum Dynamics had set me up with an amazing support system, flexible hours, on-site childcare, and a team that actually valued my contributions. Nathan has visitation rights, which he exercises under supervision. During one pickup, he tried to apologize. Stella, I'm sorry. I should have stood up to them. I should have protected you. Yes, I agreed simply. You should have. Is there any chance we could? No, I cut him off. You showed me who you really are, Nathan. A man who would throw out his pregnant wife because mommy told him to. Luna deserves better than that. He left without another word. Sometimes late at night, I think about that rainy evening when they threw me out. How helpless and alone I felt. How they were so sure they'd won, that they'd put the gold digger in her place. They were half right. I did take their gold. Every penny I was legally entitled to, and then some. But I wasn't a digger. I was a builder. I built Arya. I built improvements to their software. I built a future for my daughter and myself. And when they tried to tear me down, I built their downfall too. The Morrisons thought they were teaching me a lesson about power and family loyalty. They did teach me something valuable. Never let anyone make you feel worthless, especially when you hold all the cards. Now, every time I cash those licensing checks, I think of Patricia's smug face that night. Gold diggers don't win against real families, she'd said. Maybe not. But software engineers with properly filed patents? We win every time. As I write this, Luna is sleeping peacefully in her nursery. The one in our new house, bought with my own money, earned through my own innovations. Sometimes success isn't about revenge. It's about becoming everything they said you couldn't be, and then surpassing even that. Though I must admit, watching the Morrison empire crumble while mine rises, that's just a very satisfying bonus.